Here's my story, how to be successful on a CELTA course. It's a story of failure overcome. My own story as a ESL or TEFL teacher began way back in the mid to early 2000s, where I worked as an English language assistant in a high school in France, and at that time I had no training whatsoever. So going into those lessons, I was completely blind, and I would say a lot of those were major failures of lessons, no outcomes. In fact, I would say by the end, maybe those kids were teaching me more French than I was teaching them English. But from that failure, I learned a lot about classroom management, how to be comfortable in a classroom setting, and how to use a whiteboard. I had little to no other techniques, but that is definitely from that failure came that success. After that, I had more such experiences with little to no preparation, so I decided to do my own initial teacher training course, which was the CELT course in Ireland. So that's an equivalent of CELTA or Trinity Cert TESOL, and that was a bit of a rude awakening for me also, because by that time I believed that I had taught in France and I had taught in Spain, so I knew everything there was to know about teaching, but really it just wasn't the case. During my years as an on-trained teacher, I picked up many bad habits. For example, one of the famous ones is, using "do you understand" all the time. When I should have been using concept checking questions or instruction checking questions. So because I got into these kind of habits of using "do you understand," a lot of teacher talking time and giving a task after students had read, for example, and I kind of set myself up, this is the way to teach. When I went to do my own CELT course, I found the initial teaching practices extremely challenging, and I didn't perform well until near the end of the course, where some things started clicking for me. So yet again, I found myself failing at teaching, only to re-emerge from that a stronger teacher. Now I could see why some things weren't really working that well for me. Sometimes my lessons didn't go so well in my pre-trained days, and now I had some methods, some approaches, and some techniques that I could start to employ in the classroom, and therefore hopefully have more successful lessons. And that is indeed what happened. I started teaching after that, and I found myself much more confident, much more able to deliver successful lessons. But I felt that I kind of hit a plateau, and at a certain point then I decided, okay, there's still a lot for me to learn here. I'm still kind of faking it. If I'm, that was my feeling at the time. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go and do Delta. And there was one of the most cataclysmic failures for me that was just around the corner when I went on to do my module 2 in Delta. Oh my God, the memories. Got to put on my sunglasses for this part of the story. This is one of the bigger failures. On Delta, there are 4 teaching practices, and those are accompanied by an assignment. So there's a lot of preparation. The lesson plan together with the assignment is about 5,000 words long, and you usually have quite a long time to prepare that. However, at the time, I was really literally to fail here. My first teaching practice on my Delta course, I received a below standard, and this was kind of like a rock bottom for me, because I had taken this leap to say, okay, I'm going to go and do this Delta course, and it was something different than most of my colleagues weren't doing that kind of thing, and I was kind of putting myself out there and saying, okay, I'm going to try here, and I made this big effort only to fail at the first hurdle, or to fall at the first hurdle. I had even borrowed some money from my parents to take the course, and I was extremely worried, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to be a major failure in front of my colleagues, in front of my school, in front of my students, to my parents, to my friends, to myself. And out of that failure came maybe my biggest academic success of my life. I ended up turning it around, refocusing myself, striking up a great partnership with my great friend and colleague Bartek. You see some videos of me and him on this channel if you want to go and check them out, where we talk about things like dictogloss, developing rapport with your students. And together we formed a kind of band of brothers. We got through Delta. We passed the rest of the teaching practices. And right after I finished Delta, I was kind of feeling top of the world. I thought, okay, I've got over quite a few hurdles. in my life. Let's go for what I've been aiming at all these years. Let's get into teacher training. And I did. I got into training the CELT course, which I had just taken myself only a few years previous. And that started to go well. And then I moved to Brazil and I started to become a CELTA trainer. And I was ready to be humbled one more time. Before I get on to the next tip, I just wanted to take one quick minute off your time to tell you about my website where you can book an appointment with me, a free 45-minute consultation, just to talk about whatever your language teaching goals are. I'm here to spend that time with you and discuss how you can better achieve them. I got trained up to be a CELTA tutor at a great school in Sao Paulo under a great mentor of mine, Bjarne, if you're watching. Thank you for everything. It was time for me to observe the first teaching practice, and then after teaching practice to give feedback to my trainees. And to those trainees in my first ever CELTA course, my apologies again. I kept them in there for almost 2 hours for giving feedback afterwards. I felt it was kind of me. Now I have Delta and I have all this experience and I have all this knowledge, so I have to give it to them all in one go. And this was after TP1, the first teaching practice on the CELTA course. And I remember being told afterwards, nice job, Fergus, you really give them a lot of information there, but you want to tone it back by about 90%. And I remember it being said to me like this: it seems like you want to take their brain by the hand. Have a little bit more faith. So once again, I had lessons to learn. And this has been the story kind of my life. I feel that I have arrived at a place where I can look back and see a lot of successes, but I see that those successes have come out of failures, have come out of trips, have come out of falls, have come out of stumbles. I see it in every aspect of my life. I remember the first time I played music publicly in front of people. It was in a pub in Ireland, and me and my friends, we were going to play just 3 songs with this other band, and we were going to use their instrument, and the bass player had a fretless bass, and I had never played a fretless bass before in my life. So I got up and I played this song, the second song, this third song, all these songs, and I was barely hitting any of the notes. And this was my first time ever playing publicly. I was truly humbled that day. Yet here I am years later, and I perform music live here in Canada. I've done it in many places around the world at this stage. What's my takeaway from all of this? As teachers, we are learners as well, and part of learning is that kind of spot where things aren't exactly comfortable. They're not easy. They're not just a bed of roses, but that's where you're growing. That's where it's happening. So lean into the challenge, lean into the struggle. That's where you're going to find your success. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I know this one was a little bit off the technical and methodology side of things, but I thought it was an important idea just to share with you to try and put some things into perspective when it comes to your CELTA course. Okay, that's it for me now. I'm going to head out. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to take in some of this wonderful scenery here in Nova Scotia. But all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.